Hi, welcome back to McClutchy Maths. My name is Natalie McClutchy, and today our video focus is on multiplying surds, and it's the third video in our surds series. If you'd like to engage further with us here at McClutchy Maths, here are some ways you can go about that. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know when the next video is available. You could also consider hitting that little heart button and donating $2 with your PayPal to help us with the ongoing costs of running the channel. Or you could tell someone about the video by putting on your OneNote or sharing it with the arrow button. And the last way is to follow us on social medias. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Well, let's get into our key ideas for this video on how to multiply surds. Now, if you've got two individual surds, and I'll show you with some algebra and then we'll look at it with some numbers. Square root of x multiplied the square root of y. Now, a simple way of going about this is simply take these numbers underneath the surd sign, the root sign, and multiply them together. So we get the square root of x multiplied by y. Another way of looking at that is when we've got this situation with coefficients out the front, the x and the y get multiplied under the square root sign, and these two numbers out the front get multiplied and joined on without the multiplication symbol at the beginning. So let's have a look at that with some worked examples now. It'll make more sense than the abstracts of algebra. So root 2 times root 5, looking at that rule, we can simply take the 2 and the 5, multiply them together under the same square root sign. It becomes root 10. Same sort of deal here. This was our second example from our key ideas. Remember, under the square root signs gets multiplied by each other. 2 times 7 makes 14. And outside the square root signs gets multiplied. 3 times 5 makes 15, root 14. Okay, here's our third example now. Now this time we've got this squared and we've got some brackets. That's a little bit different to what we've been looking at. Now you'll remember from our first and second video in this series, we've talked about this whole idea of squaring, cancelling out our root sign. So for the root 11, this will cancel out here. Here's our third example, 2 root 11 all squared. Now, you'll remember from our previous videos that a square root sign is cancelled out by a power of 2. So this is technically means that this cancels out with this, becomes just 11. But you've got to remember that the coefficient 2 is also squared. There's a couple of different ways you can show the working. Here is one way right here. Remembering that when something is squared, it's simply multiplied by itself. So 2 root 11 to the power of 2 is 2 root 11 times 2 root 11. Now, there's two ways we could go about this. First of all, I'm going to show you one way and then we'll talk about the other way. So first of all, 2 times 2, that's the coefficients, get multiplied, becomes 4. But remember, when anything is multiplied by itself and it's a surd, it will cancel out this square root sign. So it's just going to become simply 11. Another way I could have gone about that was our rule, 11 times 11 makes 121. And then I do the square root of 121, I get 11. And 4 times 11 is 44. Here's our fourth example today. We've just stepped this up in a little bit more complexity with those brackets. Now here is where I have to remember the distributive law, which means I'm going to multiply this surd by this surd, and then this surd by this surd. This is how we expand single brackets. So we're building on some of that algebra knowledge we've got going back to grade 7. So it's going to become 3 root 3. I'm going to multiply this part here, root 3 times 3 root 5. So what that will become is this 3 and the 5 will be under the same set of brackets. It becomes 3 root 15. Then I'm going to do this part here as well, root 3 times root 6. So take it one step at a time. Remember, that will be take away root 3 times 6. So remember, these come under the brackets together. We can simplify that a little bit further. Now I've got 3 root 15, take away 3 root 18. Now I can actually simplify that root 18. Remember, 18 is made up of 9 times 2. So I'm now going to take this perfect square, and the square root of 9 is 3. It will come out the front. 3 times 3 makes 9. And I cannot simplify that any further. I can't simplify root 15 in any way either. Hey, here's our fifth example, and it's a bit of a doozy. We've got numbers, we've got algebra as well, so we need to remember those index laws. So first of all, we're going to employ what we've just been doing when we work with surds, and we're going to bring the 15 times the 12 together. Okay, so here I've got the 15 times 12 makes 180. I've broken up this x to the power of 5 here, and the x to the power of 2 here. You can see that x squared is just straight there, but this x to the power of 5 I've broken up into an x to the power of 4 and an x. That will enable me to take the square root of x squared and the square root of x to the power of 4. Now you might be wondering, why is there a y out the front now? Well, you'll notice this y squared, I can simply take the square root of that and it will sit straight out the front. This y stays under the square root sign. Now I need to simplify this a little bit further. Okay, so what I'm going to do is break up the 180 into 9 times 20. Okay, so now I've got some perfect squares I can deal with. What I'm also going to do here is I'm going to take this square root of the x squared and put that x out the front, taking it little by little. Okay, so we're making what's under here just a little bit simpler every time. Now let's deal with the number 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. It's going to pop out the front. I've broken this 20 up into a 4 times 5. So now I've got another one to deal with. So 9 out the front, that's where it's disappeared to. Here's where I'm dealing with the 20. Now the square root of 4 is 2. So what we're going to do is pop the 2 out the front. 3 times 2 becomes 6xy. So I'm left with just the 5 in my surd underneath. And I've still got this to deal with here. Now let's deal with this x to the power of 4 next. Okay, we want to take the square root of that. So the square root of x to the power of 4 is x squared. So it's now going to go out the front. X squared times x makes x to the power of 3. And I'm left with just the 5, the x and the y under the brackets. And that's as simple as I can get it. Well, I hope you found this video helpful today. If you'd like more practice questions like you just saw, or you've got any questions at all, mcclutchymaths@yahoo.com is the best place to reach me. I'm Natalie McClutchy. You've been watching McClutchy Maths. Have a wonderful day.